We should call that. What
Behind the bars report.
It's containing COVID-632. The Guam Power Authority, Guam Waterworks Authority, opening doors today. So we wanted to get Simon Sanchez from the CCU on to kind of talk about that. Good morning, Simon.
Hi, Simon.
Good morning, Chris. Good morning, Bree. Great job.
Thank you. So big day for you guys. You want to just run us through what's happening with the utilities today?
Yeah, today both Guam Power Authority and Guam Waterworks Authority is fully open to the public. The FDN, the main FDN headquarters up in Mangilao, the payment centers in Hulali and Upper Tumon, as you rightly joked, I mean, just in time for all the payments being received by people between PPPs and the stimulus checks. People have been, to me, surprisingly good about trying to pay their power bills. We noticed management reported at the last minute there was an uptick in, you have payment agreements. In the past, you've fallen behind and you work out a payment agreement. And for the first time in years, we saw an increase in the number of payment agreements that were being broken because people didn't have the ability to pay. And, people are getting some relief now. And we didn't time it that way. We're hoping those relief checks would get out there sooner. And actually, we were talking about opening Monday, but now with social distancing and the new rules of engagement, for example, we're open to the public. So you can come pay your bills. You can get your engineering requirements and if you're trying to hook up a new account, all those services are now available at all the main centers. And the difference was we were closed to the public through this whole period until today. But you'll see some change in the infrastructure when you go to these places. Now at Hulali, for example, we've worked out a deal with A&Z to use their drive-through to accept utility payments for power and water. Wow. And at Fidian, we've created a drive-through for people to make it easier for them to pay their bills so they don't have to go in the building. But, there's people that need to hook up their new accounts. There's people designing new buildings, and they need to get stamps of approvals and reviews. And all of that is now open to the public, so that part of the process is also available. And we hope people, as they get their monies, that they, reserve as much as they can to try to, stay current with your power bill. And if you can start to catch up on your unpaid bills. But, we meet next week for a work session and then the following week for the formal session. But I'm sure we're going to have to think about how do we work with people who just were unable to pay their bills for the last 60, 90 days. And it's not even though checks are out, I mean, the economy's not back. People aren't getting full hours. There's great uncertainty. What happens when all this federal money stops coming in? Even though it's encouraging to hear they're thinking of another relief package, but you got the House Democrats proposing a huge proposal, and you got the Senate Republicans saying too much, and we'll believe it when we see it. But for now, with what you're getting, you can make your payments at GPA or GWA. We're fully open. If you need to get stuff approved or reviewed, come see us, and we'll try to get life back to normal in terms of the utilities. And then we're going to figure out a way. I haven't talked to my colleagues, but my sense of it is in working with them is, we've got to give people enough time to get back on their feet. There's no interest. It's sort of like the landlord-tenant thing, where what good does it do for us to turn off someone who because of this virus had trouble paying their bill? Right. They don't have power. We don't have a customer. I mean, who wins? I mean, that's a lose-lose proposition.
So is that an official statement on disconnections? Because I know you said you're doing new connections now. So on the flip side of that, I wanted to ask, what are we going to do with disconnections? And then with the payment plan, you're right. There are people out there, a lot of people who just haven't been able to pay anything for the duration of the COVID crisis. So for those people who are listening to this and hearing that, oh, now you're open, how do they get in touch with the customer reps at the utilities and arrange that payment plan? And logistically, how does that work, paying down the bills from the last couple months or whatever versus the current bills that are coming out?
Yeah, so let's take it in pieces. First off, we haven't made a decision because the board hasn't met, right? I mean, on this topic, we have not made a decision. This is the first time. The governor has extended the emergency till the end of May, and we have matched that in terms of no disconnection. Right now, we're getting into a grayer area as we start to, come out from it. What is management's plan? And next week, that's the meeting. Is okay, management. What is your plan? and the board has to approve it. My personal belief, and I can't speak for all 5 members, we have to meet, right? But my personal belief, if the governor's extended it to the end of the month, and I'm comfortable personally with saying, hey, let's do the no disconnect to the end of the month. But then what happens on June 1st? Because I think the executive order goes till May 28th or something like that. What happens the day after the executive order stops, or what happens if the governor extends it for another 30 days, 60 days, 90 days? We have to plan for both possibilities. And then, the way I look at it is the whole world owes the whole world money. Mm-hmm. And the ratepayers of Guam, the ratepayers of Guam owe the ratepayers of Guam for unpaid utility bills, right? Because we own power and water. All the money in those 2 utilities came from all of us, right? And it didn't come from the general fund. It's all been built up by the ratepayers putting money into those utilities and us managing it and producing power, water, and wastewater services. So we owe each other money. And so my view is, hey, if I have to bet on any people, I'm going to bet on the people of Guam. So that means that if we're going to have to be very creative and generous with the payback, let's say you owe 2-3 months of power. The current payment plan, I think, is you got to pay back in 3 or 6 months. That's going to be very difficult. So that tells me we should amend that current payment plan and come up with something that gives more people more time to recover in this time of still great uncertainty. And that's what we'll talk about. And I'm sure John Beneventi and Miguel Verdeo, that's what they're thinking and worried about. So what is our new plan? The current 6 month, that's it. It probably is going to be very difficult to enforce on people unless you want to start disconnecting a lot of people. And they don't want to do that. So that's the conversation. Management will bring it to us next week, and then we meet the following week, and we'll take a look at it and we'll make some decisions. What do we do now that it's been extended? Once we know that there's no more emergency, at least officially declared by the government, governor, what do we do with the unpaid bills? And my approach is to take a very long view. If Sabrina and Chris owe Simon money, but I know Sabrina and Chris are going to be around for a long, long time, God willing, then what's the point of telling Sabrina and Chris, hey, you got a week, you got 3 months, you got 2 months when you owe me 3 months? It's just, what good is a plan that isn't going to work? It's not going to produce the payments you want. It's going to create great unrest at a time where people don't need this stress. Mm-hmm. And if we've got to be patient, if we've got to cut some of our spending, we have capital improvement projects that we fund from ratepayer money that we don't have to run to the bank to. So maybe we delay those projects for 6 months, a year, as people can refill their wallets and take care of their families. And we're clearly one of those people. I'm very impressed with how many people still try to pay their bill even during these difficult times. We still
do you guys have a number of how many Sabrina and Chris's haven't been able to pay their power and water bills?
The only numbers I saw last month was we track how many people have payment agreements, and for the first time in years there was a spike in broken payment agreements. Where you had a trouble before you came in and said, hey, I had trouble. Here's what I can do, and then you miss a payment, right? That was a spike. We didn't get a count on how many people didn't pay their bills. We didn't collect as much money as we usually do, but it wasn't down 90%. It was still a pretty 70-80% of what we normally collect. So many people were able to make some payments. We're just going to have to work on that Simon, Sabrina, Chris batch that said, hey, I couldn't make any payments, or I could only pay 25% of my bill. And we'll get those numbers. I mean, that's the kinds of questions that we'll be asking next week. Okay, so what are we talking about? How many delinquencies do we have? How many people would qualify, would have to get on a payment plan now that they've missed? What is that number? And then what is our process for handling it? And I think the most important question is, do we change the 6 month payback? Do we make it 9 months, 12 months, 18 months? I mean, that's a conversation we all have to have, because sooner or later we need to collect it. But, people are having very difficult times. They only have so much money. The economy's still not back at work. We got, commercial accounts that aren't in business, right? So we're all going to have to take care of each other that way, collectively. It's a collective debt we owe to ourselves. Mm-hmm. But that also gives me my perspective is, okay, since we owe it to ourselves and we're generally good people, then let's work with ourselves and give ourselves time. And Power Authority's not going away, Waterworks not going away, the people at Guam aren't going away. So we got to extend some debt a little bit. It's that's what we do, and that's what we have to do. Banks are going to have to think about it. Landlords have to think about it. Power companies. anyone that is owed money for a good or service on a monthly payment where people weren't able to be employed. I mean, we're all going to have to think about it. I mean, yeah, some people are going to be, I use the phrase jerks, by saying, oh, no, you owe me, that's it. But, whether you have an empty building or an unpaid power bill, what good does that do you in the long run? You need that tenant. You need those folks to pay us. And if we got to give Sabrina 18 months to make up 3 months because it's more affordable, but we get the money back, can we look at that? Do we charge interest? If so, at what rate? But our interest rates are so low now. I mean, do we just say, nah, whatever you owe us is what you owe us? We, the people of Guam that own the utility, will give the people of Guam that owe the utility, a break on and time to make good.
What about
we can't cancel it forever, but we can definitely work on prudent repayment plans.
What about the government of Guam? Have they been paying their power bills?
As far as we can tell, they have been, and the power bill is much lower. So we're seeing sales about 10% lower. So there's less power being consumed overall, but that's primarily the business community, and the residential bill has gone up because everybody's staying home, right? But we haven't seen a big problem with the government paying the power bill. We hope with some of their CARES financing, that we're on that list. But we also have to remember, we can't all just say, okay, all 40,000 ratepayers, just don't pay your power bill.
Right, that's cool.
Commercial accounts? Are there issues with commercial accounts? Are you seeing a spike in them not paying? Because a lot of them haven't been.
Last month was the last time we met Bree, and so it'd be kind of early to tell how bad has this virus affected our payments. But this month, I'm sure we'll get a huge update. We know we are collecting less revenue, so that's telling me 20%, 25% of our people, our customers, are not able to pay us or pay us in full. We collected less money in April than we normally do, and in March. So I'm with you, Bria. My guess is more people have had trouble paying their bill in whole or in part. So the list of people that are having challenges is going to go up. That's not going to be surprising news. Exactly how many we can share with you next week when John and Miguel brief us. But our expectation is the number of people unable to who were not able to pay their bill for the last 90 days has gone up. And so how do we wisely and work with that situation and give our people a chance to recover?
All right, so we just wanted to get you on. I know are you going to go and tour the sites this morning or anything?
I might run up there. Unfortunately, my laundry is closed today because we don't have any customers, so it's a good day to run up and do that. But we've got a great team that manages it. The commissioners are paid $500 a month from both utilities, but we pay people a lot of money to worry about all of this stuff. So we might let them do that. And the other thing that's changed, and I know this has been a topic of conversation, we paid the double pay based on our interpretation of the rules and regs, as long as there was an emergency, and we did that. And we had a slightly different interpretation. We felt we weren't open to the public, even though work was being done. People were running generators, people were fixing leaks, customer service people were receiving payments and processing, accounting was doing the financials. So people were working from home. But if you had to come in, we paid the double pay. If you're working from home, you just got the regular pay. But the double pay ends today because our interpretation was the facilities are now open to the public, and since they're open to the public, then the double pay that will stop. And I think the thing that we've done is that we're letting all our employees know today, right? That hey, we're all back to work, even though many people still work at home because of the social distancing. We haven't quite rebuilt the infrastructure, the spacing within the office space. So some people will stay home, but Mike, Miguel, and John B. and the crew, they're good. They're engineers. They think about this stuff. So their plan is we're ready for the public, all full services at our normal locations. We got some drive-throughs. If you come in, double pay ends today for those that were qualified. Everybody's back to there'll be some differential, though, according to John B. and Miguel. The customer service people that will be exposed to the public that come in to pay, they're going to get that hazard pay. There's a difference in the rate between the old DOA rule and the governor's executive order. And we wrote a letter to the Attorney General, but we just haven't heard back. Which number applies. So I'm not quite sure which one we're applying. It's not a big difference, but the governor's differential rate was slightly different than the DOA one.
When did you guys write the AG?
a month ago or so, something like that. And this is I'm getting this secondhand only that management told us that they had asked for an opinion from the AG, but we've gotten no response. But it's been at least a month because it was in last month's meeting where it was, we know because we all asked. So what did the AG? Did anyone? I mean, we have our own attorneys, and we're forced to opine. And unfortunately, you got the old DOA rules that's been in since before you two were born. And then you got the new executive order, and the rate of compensation is slightly different. So I think we paid it under the old DOA rules for now, and no one's made it clear. And ultimately, even if the AG opines, remember that he's at the end of the day, he's just another attorney. He's an important attorney, but until the court says pay it this way, pay it that way, you can waive this, you can't waive that. Until that's settled by a court, it's just guidance from an attorney, an important one, but being the senior attorney, we wrote him a letter, management wrote him a letter, but unfortunately he hasn't opined on that
right
issue.
And we asked about
we had to opine it.
I think Senator St. Augustine also has asked for an opinion, and I think they're going to come out with one in the next few days. We tried to get the Attorney General on, but the response we got was that there's nothing really to talk about. Because they're working on the opinion.
I saw that. So, I mean, the guidance would be nice, but again, even then, someone can challenge it.
And there's other things to talk about with the Attorney General.
Yeah. So I'm sure
we'll get to those. Thanks, I appreciate it.
A lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Yes, very good. But thank you, customers, ratepayers, and co-owners of our utilities. Thank you for all you've done. We'll be patient with you as you've been patient with us. We're open for business. If you want to start talking about a repayment plan, please, you can start that process. If you want to pay online, all of those things are still available. I called in and paid both my power bills yesterday.
We had a comment here, Simon. Can Simon please rub his common sense off to those leaders that desperately need it?
Well, we're doing what we think is right, and we hope others are doing the same and thinking it through. I mean, this is unprecedented. Heck, but we now have a new morning show that we didn't have 3 months ago, and it's a great show, right? But sometimes
rapidly evolving.
The Facebook feed drops off, right, and all that stuff. And Chris had to give me the phone number. I didn't know what the number was. So I wasn't prepared, right?
We're standing it up as we go.
Yeah, but I mean, these are very tough decisions. I mean, we could be wrong on ending the double pay today for our employees, but this is what our attorneys have advised, and we could have been wrong on which rate to pay. But at least the stuff we do control, the payment plans. My sense of my colleagues, we all love Guam. We've all been here. We're all longtime residents. To simply say, it's 6 months, we're not changing the rules. I said, I'm not going to support that. We've got to be patient with each other. It's a difficult time for everybody, and all the relief money is going to go quick. It's already spent, right? They just need the check just for the cash to follow it, so they can pay their rent, catch up on their power, take care of their kids. All of that stuff is we all have to be patient with. So even our customers should be patient as we try to do things with common sense at the utilities and hopefully in the rest of the community. So, but we'll be listening, and thanks for giving us a chance to talk to your listeners and get the word out and hang in there, Guam. We love this place. We're not going anywhere, and we're going to work through this since we're not going anywhere.
Right. Okay. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Simon.
Okay.
Take care.
Yeah.
Be safe.
Wash your hands.
Also, big thanks to GPA and GWA employees. I just had to say that.
Right, getting that double pay. They're making
and
all
just working,
right,
keeping us going.
Keeping the lights on.
And the water running.
Yeah, amen. 6:50. Let's go over to Mahilo, to the Department of Corrections, and go behind the bars with Major Anton Uggan. Good morning, Major.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
I guess we'll just start with an update on the incoming. I heard that there were some developments with the incoming. Now, I don't know if you could just set us straight on this, but what we're hearing is that there was a memo that came out that you guys were going to do the incoming through the postal, and we're hearing that the memo was signed off on by 3 of the senior DLC leadership, but then that memo was rescinded the next day by the director.
Wait, take me back. What's going on?
Yeah, go ahead. You just handle it, Major. What's the deal with the incoming and the idea that people were going to mail it in and now they're not?
Well, yes, a few weeks ago, the idea was to allow incoming through a parcel package.